Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Danelle. Hope this finds you doing well. Today we're going to talk about the state of the market. As you can see, cryptocurrencies are currently going down over the past day, as well as when you look at the broader week, the market is down. So we'll talk about that a little bit, as well as some of the macroeconomic factors that can be contributing to this downturn, as well as talk about what's going on with the United States and their strategic Bitcoin reserve, which was officially announced earlier this past week. So as we can see, Bitcoin is currently trading at $81,883 at the time of the recording. It is down 12% over the past 7 days. Ethereum is at $2,046. It actually dipped below $2,000 earlier in the last few hours, and it is down nearly 17% over the past week. We have XRP down 22%, Solana down over 25% at $127 currently. Cardano is down 31%, nearly 32% over the past 7 days. We have Dogecoin. It was kind of holding that 20 cent range for a while and been holding that for really the last 5 months or so. And now we see that it is broken below that level and is currently trading at around 17 cents. This also is another indicator of people not only taking money away from risk on assets like cryptocurrency in general, but looking at Dogecoin, which is the top meme coin out of all of the cryptocurrencies. It also is showing an indication of people taking their money away from the riskier assets, which include meme coins and some of the other cryptocurrencies that are further down in this market cap list. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next several weeks. There still could be a lot of volatility potentially over the next several months, depending on what happens in the macroeconomic environment. That's why we say it's very important to continue to learn as much as you can, particularly before you begin investing. You want to make sure that you're investing money that you do not need immediately or don't need in the near term, because investing sometimes goes through ups and downs. And so whatever money you put in, it could potentially be worth less over a period of time. It could potentially worth more over a period of time. So you want to make sure that you have an understanding of what you're investing in. And crypto is one of the riskiest assets that you can invest in. As you can see, it can have major swings. When we look at Bitcoin, it had a huge swing up after the US presidential elections at the beginning of November of 2024. And you can see now we're actually getting back towards those levels before the election of November of 2024. We're currently trading in this $80,000 range. We could potentially come back down into the 70s. As you can see, we had a candle here on the 28th of February. So we are looking to potentially come back to those levels because we need to find some kind of support. But you can see that if you invested back here in November and you didn't sell anything, it could be potentially coming right back down to where you bought back in November. So a lot of people are holding or hodling, as we know, and the term that we talk about in Bitcoin and as Bitcoiners. Hodling is basically hold on for dear life, making sure that you continue to buy this asset and hold it. It's one of those assets that you want to look at. What does it do over the long term? If you look at the ETH and Bitcoin chart, this is basically showing you how ETH is performing against Bitcoin. And it has been basically since the middle of 2021 or the end of 2021, Ethereum has been outperformed by Bitcoin tremendously. Usually, this is an indicator of how well the altcoin, so basically any coin that is not Bitcoin, how well are they doing in the market. And when you look at Ethereum, it's a great indicator of how the altcoins are doing against Bitcoin, because usually there's a time period where Bitcoin does very well against altcoins, and then there's a run where altcoins have a run, and that would be seen during this time period, for example, when Ethereum was outperforming Bitcoin. But here, now you see that basically over the last several years, Ethereum has yet to go back to levels where it was back in 2021. It has been on a serious decline and continues to go down even more, even though many people believe that at some point it has to have a turnaround. But as of right now, that is not happening. As of really the last 4 years, that has not happened. So We'll be curious to see if we will see any type of turnaround when it comes to Ethereum, which is still the second largest cryptocurrency by market cap. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. And we'll also just take a quick look at the Dogecoin chart. You can see here, Dogecoin has also basically given back all of its gains, also known as round tripping. It's basically back to where it was in November of 2024. And so you can see here it is now under that 20-cent line. So it's around 17 cents currently. And so it's once again one of those volatile assets, even one of the more riskier and more volatile assets, because it is becoming more and more speculative, or is very much more speculative than something like Bitcoin. So this is another indicator of how much people are willing to take risks on these more speculative assets. And as we can see, currently a lot of people who were in Dogecoin or have been holding Dogecoin for an extended period of time have been selling, given the fears of what's happening in the macroeconomic environment. So when you're investing, particularly in cryptocurrencies, as well as just in any other asset, you always want to have an idea of what's going on in the macroeconomic environment. It's very important because it drives what money people are willing to put into investments, because there's no guarantees when it comes to investments. So obviously there's always a chance for an asset, whether it's an equity, a security, a cryptocurrency, gold, it's not always going to be up and to the right forever. There's going to be times where it's going up and down. So it's not always definitive that you're going to make more money than what you put in when you're investing. And some of the reasons why people decide to go risk off is because they might need the money for their own livelihood. And so when we look at livelihood type numbers, inflation is one of those major numbers that the Federal Reserve looks at when they're determining monetary policy in the United States. And so when we look at the US inflation rates, and inflation rates has been a problem in many countries around the world, some countries having double, triple, quadruple the amount of inflation in the United States. So it's definitely important to make sure that you keep up with what the rates are in your particular jurisdiction. But when we look here in the United States, we're starting to see that it's starting to creep back up a little bit. You saw that in 2021, the average annual inflation rate was at a high of 7%, which is the highest that has been seen really basically over the last 10 plus years. And we started to get it to go down as the Federal Reserve began to hike interest rates. And so now we're looking to see if the Federal Reserve will cut, but they won't cut if these interest rates continue to go, inflation rates, continue to go back up. And so this could be a problem where if we do start to see those interest rates stay where they are or go back up, depending on what's happening with inflation, then that means that people are going to be less willing to invest. They're going to be more willing to hold on to their money, keep it in savings, or more safer assets like bonds and things of that nature. And so that obviously is going to affect the equity security market as well as the cryptocurrency market. So you definitely want to make sure you have a basic understanding of what's going on in macroeconomics, because it definitely plays a huge role in what happens with the cryptocurrency market as well as stocks and that I mentioned as well. So we know that the United States has announced that there will be a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And as of now, we know that they're basically going to keep the Bitcoin that they already hold. Currently, the United States holds over 200,000 Bitcoin. Basically, they have received those Bitcoin via forfeitures or through seizures for illegal activities. And so in this strategic reserve, it was announced that they are not going to be selling the Bitcoin. Now, we don't have an understanding as to whether or not they will actually accumulate and buy more. That's going to take some more steps. And they say that they are not going to be using taxpayers' money to buy more Bitcoin. So there may be other ways in which they can compile Bitcoin. One of the suggestions is that the United States, and I didn't know this, but they actually have cheese reserves, which are worth billions of dollars. As you can see here, it's worth over $3 billion. They have 1.4 billion pounds of cheese reserves. Why did they choose to hold on to cheese? Who knows? But the United States has a lot of assets that it holds on reserves for various reasons. And so we know that they have gold as one of the biggest reserves that they have. And if you look at some of the other U.S. reserves, they include other foreign currencies, SDRs, which are special drawing rights. You have a position in the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund. So there are a bunch of different things. They also hold some of their own bonds and things of that nature. So there's a lot of assets the United States holds as what they hold on their reserve balance sheet, not only from the Federal Reserve holding a certain number of assets, but also the Treasury Department of the United States as well. So now we know that Bitcoin will be one of the reserve assets that the United States is going to hold on to. Whether or not they accumulate more obviously remains to be seen. There was a crypto summit at the White House in Washington, D.C. last week. A lot of Bitcoiners and a lot of cryptocurrency enthusiasts were not really excited about what came out of this particular summit. Nothing necessarily that was headline news. So we definitely are still going to be waiting to see what happens with regards to whether or not the United States will actually buy more Bitcoin to add to its 200 plus thousand Bitcoin that it currently has now on reserve. You can see China is second at just under 200,000. They may have more. We don't know for sure, obviously. But we do see here from what we do know from the blockchain information that is available and from the blockchain analysts, we see that Bhutan, one of the smallest countries in the world, they have accumulated a lot of their Bitcoin through Bitcoin mining. El Salvador, which was one of the first countries to make Bitcoin legal tender, continues to invest and buy and accumulate Bitcoin as well as mine it as well. So there's actually a lot going on, not only in the United States, but also around the world. When we talk about the United States, there are a few states that have been considering Bitcoin reserves. Utah, they actually took out a clause recently where they were looking to establish a Bitcoin reserve, but as of right now, they chose to take that particular clause out of their bill, but they will be looking to provide citizens with basic custody protections as well as the right to mine Bitcoin and run a node and participate in staking, among other things. So that did pass the Utah's Senate. So now it's basically left up for the Utah governor to sign off on this particular bill, but they will not, at least right now, establish a Bitcoin reserve for for that particular state. And there are a number of states that do have legislation on the table. As we know, it can take a long time for the government to pass particular legislation. There's a number of steps that go into this actually happening. So you can go to several resources, but this is one that kind of is keeping up with what's going on with the states that are interested in potentially putting Bitcoin on the reserve balance sheet for those particular states. So we're going to continue to keep you posted on that. Obviously, please keep up with this, not only on X, but as well as IG. We'll continue to keep you posted as much as we can with what's going on in the cryptocurrency market. Continue to learn, do your due diligence. There's no rush. There's going to be time to learn about this burgeoning asset class. We look forward to linking up with you soon on the Networkchain. Keep it here. We'll be here every week on YouTube as usual. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, take care. Bye-bye.